Welcome back to another video, and today I will be doing my first tag video, and I got the idea from Angelica Nyqvist, who is a Swedish YouTuber who currently lives in the States and who I'm a really big fan of. So the tag we're doing today is the new makeup releases, the tag. So this isn't the new makeup releases that I also do on my channel where I go through the newest launches. This is generally about new makeup releases from this year, and there is a set of questions that I will be now telling my answers to. I try to include in this video a lot of products that I have myself tried. However, some of these questions aren't specifically related to products that you necessarily have tried. There are some related to trends also, but I do try to include quite a lot of something that I have from like own personal experience from, because then it's easier for me to talk about them. But anyway, let's get to the video itself. So I have the questions now open on my phone, and I will be also putting them into the description box if you want to do this video yourself, or just want to sort of think what would have been your answers. And the first question is, what mainstream release lived up to the hype the most this year? And this is one of the products that I don't have in this video, but this is purely based on my perception from social media and from how many videos on YouTube there was. So these are I'm gonna mention the Natasha Denona Yucca palette release and the I Need a Nude palette release. I think those were like immediately when both of those palettes were launched, I think my like video feed and sort of all the like Instagram accounts related to makeup that I followed, I was just flooded with the videos and content about those two palettes, and I think Natasha Denona probably has like made really good sales from both of those. And even though I think the palettes released quite close to each other, I do think that because they were still quite different, they're like different kind of people have been able to enjoy the like releases, because there is something for the colorful lovers, which is the Yucca palette, but also something for those who like the more kind of neutral look. So that's where the like I Need a Nude palette is probably why that also became really popular. And I do believe that one reason for the popularity of both of the palettes is that I do believe there has been a formula improvement, at least based on the reviews that I have seen. So I think one thing people had begun to critique Natasha Denona from was that her shimmers started looking or being a bit lackluster compared to the shimmers that the competitors had started offering. And the shimmer formula that she came out in the Yucca palette and in the I Need a Nude palette, those have like really been, there's been some added sparkle to them, and I think that has been a really good move from Natasha, because it has like kept her palettes relevant, and she is quite good at combining color stories. I think in terms of both of the palettes, they are quite cohesive, they are quite intuitive, would be intuitive to use. I could have bought both of the palettes, I certainly had the makeup budget to buy them, however there has been just so many other more exciting releases that I have wanted to spend my money on, so that is the reason why I actually haven't been buying Natasha Denona palettes except in the beginning of this year. But that was my answer to the question number one. So question number two is, what indie release lived up to the hype most this year? And this was a bit of a difficult one, because there were quite a lot of, I have been buying a lot of indie makeup. One reason is that there has certainly been more European-based brands that are now available, but also we have now Monolith Shop in Europe that stocks a lot of these really popular US indie brands, so that is the reason why I have certainly been trying, and I really had to think about that what was so cohesive in terms of the quality the palette offered, and then what sort of like got a lot of hype on like social media. And I think the releases that I put were so Oden's Eye Jewels and Gems palette is first one that I have here, so that is actually something that I have, and the second palette I don't have, however I will put a picture on the screen was the green one, the Stone and Rock palette, and I believe both of these got quite a lot of, there were quite a lot of content on these, and I'm gonna show how these look, and these certainly, at least for me, did live up to the hype. I think the quality of this is very consistent. It's this very good Oden's Eye quality. The mattes are they're opaque. You don't have to layer and layer them, but you only need a couple of layers and you're good to go. The shimmers are these sort of very beautiful, shifty and nice looking shimmers, and they bring a lot of sparkle to your eyelid. So that's the first reason why I put the Oden's Eye. And then from Cosmic Brushes, or I believe they have now gone through a name change, so it's now Cosmic Beauty, and I have actually I have 4 of their palettes and I did get all of them this year. However, what was released this year was, I believe, the Muse palette, and now this is the Delicious Delights. I didn't buy the new, I believe it was Winter Wonderland palette or the Gothic palette, because those were color stories that purely aren't something that I would like. However, I did decide to bring this pastel palette purely as the example, and I think why Cosmic Beauty or Cosmic Brushes, why they have been so popular, is that they offer this very good opaque matte formula, even in these really difficult kind of pastel shades that are usually harder to formulate, but they do it in a really good price point. And also their sparkles are just, shimmer shades are just beautiful, they're sparkly. They have even begun to put duochromes, so for example this had this sort of very nice shifty, I have no idea if the camera is picking it up. If someone's always wondering why I don't know what the camera is doing, that I actually have to wear glasses, so, and if I would have to wear contacts every time I film, that would be expensive, because buying these one-use contacts is quite expensive. So I have to use this ones I have sparingly, so if you're wondering why is she not knowing what the camera does, is that I can see the monitor a bit and what's going on, but especially on close-ups I can't really see anything. So if you were ever wondering, that's the reason. And I really don't want to use glasses on filming, because they will reflect back the ring light, and also generally I think it's nicer to display the makeup looks I'm wearing without them. But so just you're aware, I can't see far away, so that's just on a side note. But yeah, regarding what brands lived up to the hype, releases lived up to the hype, definitely like all the Cosmic Brushes releases that came out this year and that I have tried have lived up to the hype. I can't comment on the Gothic palette or Winter Wonderland palette, because obviously I haven't tried those, but certainly the two, the Muse and this pastel palette that I have tried, have been very, very worth the money. So the next question is, which release did not live up to the hype? And I'm quite sad to put both of these here. I still haven't done my indie palette ranking, it will be coming. I have put the palettes already on my Excel sheet, so I know how they will rank, and I will already say that neither of these palettes didn't rank particularly low, but these were disappointed for some perhaps things that I was surprised that none of the reviews that I watched, and I do watch quite a lot of reviews before buying stuff, but first let's go to this one. So this is the Glaminatrix Rich Romantic, and this is, like I already said it, I think it was either in was it a monthly makeup roundup review or a palette ranking? I'm not sure for which one, but I have featured this in a video before. And this is a color story that perhaps if I did a palette it would probably look something like this, because it has pinks, it has these sort of like muted purples, it has some neutrals, and it has these beautiful shifty shimmers. However, something that made this disappointing and something that did have not come up in any review that I have watched is that these shimmers, they don't only crease a little bit, they crease so that they like crease almost away during the daytime. And it would not be even an issue if it was one or two, but it's with all of these shimmers. And the shimmers are really something, because when you apply them to the lid and when they stay on the lid, they are very beautiful, they are very dimensional, they're very shifty. I haven't yet tried if a NYX glitter glue would be something that would make these stick on my eyelids, but I would like to note that I have dozens of other indie brand palettes with the Oden's Eye, with the Cosmic Brushes, with the Glam Shop, with Gloss Gods. I don't have this sort of creasing away issue with their shimmers, so it's probably just the shimmer formula, and this is very emollient. And like I said, this will not rank low in my palette ranking, because I do still like this a lot because of the color story, and the matte quality in this is very good, but just that with the shimmers, it is something that I do have to consider, and something that did make me a bit disappointed in this one, because I had such high expectations for this. However, because I still do like the color story and the rest of the quality of this, I will be trying Glaminatrix in the future if they come with a good color story, but just the shimmer quality, and because it applies to all of the shimmers on this palette, is something that did make me a bit disappointed in this. The second I will be mentioning this one, and this is the Sugar on Grunge palette from Bled Bunny, and I tried the Dollhouse palette before this, and I was so excited because the Dollhouse has this sort of muted pastel shades, and those were so good, and also the shimmer quality in the Dollhouse palette is so good. So I was very excited when I saw this, because this has these sort of like colorful pastel shimmer shades, then it has darkening up shades, and then it has the row of pretty shimmers. However, something has happened between the quality of when Dollhouse was made and when this one first made, because the upper rows, these, it takes a lot to build them up, and I don't have that issue with the Dollhouse palette, the more like lighter shades in this one. However, these, I generally have to build them a lot, and that is not something that I'm used to from Blend Bunny, who is known for their like very awesome matte quality that you don't usually have to build. And the second reason why this was disappointed is that quite a few of the shimmers in the bottom row, they are actually quite hard panned. They were like hard panned already when I got this as a new palette, and I really had to rub my finger, and a few of them are more like topper shades even though they look very opaque in the pan. So this is something that, because of the color story and because of the good experience I had with the Dollhouse palette, I was having very high expectations towards this. But unfortunately, something just happened with this one. I haven't tried the newer palettes that have come out after this, because the color stories Blend Bunny has come out afterwards haven't been exciting enough for me to want to buy them. So I'm hoping maybe this was just a dud and their newer palettes, now that they have the same awesome quality that Dollhouse palette has. It's still a very nice palette and I still do like using it. It's just that the quality difference between this and the Dollhouse palette, it felt like this was a bit of a downgrade to that one. So the next question is, what was the biggest curveball? And I have a positive one and maybe then a not so positive one. Depending of course from your point of view. And the positive one was that Makeup Revolution is doing good products, or not in all categories, but for example the cheek products that I have been trying and I have been eyeing on their like social media channels, it really seems that they have done something like right. They already got quite a lot of hype from the cream bronzer they did last year, but now they have also their sort of the sort of Charlotte Tilbury dupes that they have done. Those have gotten like quite a lot of good reviews, even from like YouTubers and social media influencers that I have known previously that absolutely hate Makeup Revolution. And one good example that I have is these are the mousse blushes, and what I already have been raving about this is that this is like very good if you want a cream blush formula that goes matte and lasts all day, and really like if you like a very like bright blush, then this is definitely a formula that I would recommend. And how easy this has been to use, it's also been a very positive surprise. And then I actually saw recently that I'm gonna actually pop up a picture from these. Revolution came out with these sort of highlighter dupes. I believe they might be duping the Rare Beauty highlighters, but those also kind of look like exciting. And just generally that, I think while Makeup Revolution, like their eyeshadow palettes still, they don't look really like they are much. They still look like they are just like making these random eyeshadow palettes and trying to see that which one sticks, that they don't really put effort on the design of them. And also I don't think their eyeshadow quality based on the ones I have swatched in store, because we do have a store here that actually sells Makeup Revolution. So based on my own swatches from the newer palettes, but also just generally they still need to do something with their eyeshadow palettes. But in terms of other products, I think they have been actually like doing like really well compared to like 2 years ago. People were talking like that Makeup Revolution is probably like the worst quality or one of the like bad quality drugstore makeups you can get. So that's sort of been a curveball. I will put like maybe like a question mark after that Makeup Revolution getting their act together in terms of cheek and base products with a question mark in, because we will have to see how their product quality continues to develop next year. Then perhaps the not so, I'm not gonna say this is a negative thing, but the thing that with me that has gotten me a bit perhaps, well, this is probably the reason I haven't been buying Natasha Denona a lot, but at the end of the fall we had a phase where Natasha Denona was coming out with a new palette like almost like several times a month if you're counting the like the mini palettes that came between. But basically we had that Yucca palette came out, and then there were a couple of palettes that we had already seen leaks from, but we didn't exactly know when those were coming up, and we were kind of maybe thinking that, oh, maybe those are for next year. But we got the Yucca palette, and then there was some like space between. I think the Yucca came out in summer, and then we had the I Need a Nude, and then we were like that, okay, it wasn't that close. There was some time between that. Kind of usually Natasha Denona doesn't release this close to midi-sized palette, but the I Need a Nude was also very popular and it was different enough. And then we started seeing that the Xenon palette, the midi size, was like, there had already been leaks about the palette, but then we started seeing more images. We actually saw images of being available in stores. And then we had these sort of like mini and even baby-sized palettes. Was it the like triochrome palette, and then we had the like the mini size or the baby-sized bronze. And I was already like at this point thinking that, Natasha, this is like beginning to be like when you release so many products close and you're a higher-end brand, it sort of starts taking away the value, like with drugstore brands, because drugstore brands basically, part of their business model is that you quickly churn out new products, but you also then discontinue a lot of your old products, and the products aren't really expensive to make or expensive to buy for the consumers. However, when you're a high-end brand, you have to consider that if you start releasing too many products after, and I think this is what happened with ABH and why ABH sort of fell out from the makeup community's grace a few years ago, when we had the whole thing that we had the regular ABH palettes, and then we suddenly started getting these Norvina palettes, and then at that point people like said that this is enough, and there was a long gap when people were just not interested in buying Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I think there was even a gap when ABH wasn't releasing that much, because I think even she got the message that it was just too much. So I am now like maybe keeping my eye on Natasha Denona if she is going to continue with this fast-paced release, because I am starting to worry about that if you like churn out products so quickly, then are some of them money grab. For example, I do think that like if you have like, why would you need a baby-sized bronze palette? Because we already have the mini and the midi-sized bronze palettes, like that's the first one. So if the palettes are distinctive enough from each other, but if you're, for example, repeating other palettes that you have come out before in just smaller formats, then that's beginning to feel a bit like that you're just trying to get easy money from a format that you have already released a palette before. But anyways, that's just my personal opinion, and of course if you have been liking the Natasha Denona releases and you have been liking that she has come out with a lot of new palettes in such a short time span, then that's good for you. However, for me that has turned off me from the brand, at least for a while now. I'm going to see what her spring palettes are going to be looking like, but for now she is not really a brand that's on my sort of top tier list of like products and brands that I'm thinking of buying from or want to try products from. So the next question is, what was the biggest letdown or snoozefest of the year? And this is probably going to not surprise anyone if you have been watching videos from any makeup YouTubers during this year. So I'm going to say Pat McGrath's eyeshadow. So I think it's now for all of us collectively to just say that Pat, we have had enough. We don't need any more pink eyeshadows. I actually filmed my sort of higher end palette ranking before this one, and I believe in that video I will be discussing that as a person who has the Divine Rose 1, 2 and the Utopian Dream palette. I don't need another pink palette. I mean, I just think that, for example, it shows that how much sales she's having to run. She's again, when I'm filming this, having yet again another sale. It just shows that people aren't buying her products full price, and I think part of the reason might be that it's just too much the same. I think PMG for me has now become a brand that I do like to buy other products from her actually more. I actually do like her cheek products a lot, but there's only so many like bronzer or blush or highlighter shades you can do. Certainly if she comes out with a new formula, because I have been hoping for a while now that she would maybe come out with a cream bronzer or a liquid blush formula that's not in sort of a stick format that she came out with earlier this year. But I think in terms of eyeshadow palettes, I think people are now like saying to Pat McGrath that, listen, we want something that you can't keep asking 120 euros from the same palette that you have now come out with like at least 3 or 4 times before. And then she's coming out also with smaller palettes, but essentially those have the same colors that she has come out with before. So even in her smaller palettes, there is not very much color innovation there. And it's all like being very repetitive. So my answer simply to this is Pat McGrath's, particularly her eyeshadow palettes and their color stories. Next question, what is the biggest, we are now at, number 6. What was the unsung hero of this year? So I have actually 2 products, and these are actually not eyeshadow related. Most of the products here are eyeshadow kind of related because that's the stuff I like the most, but I do have some other stuff also. So first is a mascara that unfortunately I don't have the tube anymore because I used it up. So this was the Maybelline Falsies, I have to now actually, the names are long. Falsies Surreal Extension Mascara. So that is for me, because I am such a hardcore fan of the sort of Essence Lash Princess mascara, so it takes quite a lot for any kind of mascara to sort of drop that. However, for me, what the Maybelline mascara truly brought, that it's a mascara on a drugstore level that you get this sort of very nice volume at. So the sort of volumizing effect the mascara has, while it still brings length and separation, and also the fact that it's the drugstore mascara, so it's relatively affordable. And I know a lot of people like to talk about the Sky High mascara, however that's a mascara that didn't actually work for me. So I was a bit sort of skeptic when I went into the Falsies extension mascara. However, I think that is one, I do think the advertising campaign did get a lot of hate, like, I'm not gonna say hate, but there was a bit of controversy over it, because I don't think Maybelline immediately said that they used AI in sort of generating part of the campaign materials, and then I think there was all sort of later on then they said that yes, like the ad stated on, I think it was on the London Tube or something, that there is like some AI used to have the effect. So sort of the marketing campaign certainly got social media buzz, but I don't think the mascara itself, I haven't seen many people, even people who usually review drugstore products, I haven't seen quite like a lot of people mention it. But for me, that's certainly like at a drugstore place and price and unsung hero that I think would deserve more hype. The second one are these ones, I think if you have been watching any of my videos lately. So these are the Milani 3D glosses, and I'm like thinking, why aren't people talking about these? Because I'm gonna just say that these are, like, for me, these are as good as the Fenty glosses. These might be even, let's see, next year are these going to actually top the Fenty glosses, because these are just so sparkly. These are, but they aren't smooth, they are very smooth on the lips. You don't feel any sort of like glitter particles or anything, and the shine these gives is like just amazing. And they have a very extensive shade range, so you do have like more if you want a bit more color, or then if you want more like just a clear or more like clear type of shades, they have quite a lot of variety in these. So yeah, this is definitely another unsung hero that I'm surprised that no one is talking about, because I think these lip glosses are awesome, and they are certainly quite good and even better than, well, almost any kind of lip glosses that I have been trying from drugstore mid-range or even higher end ones. So those are the sort of my unsung heroes from this year. Ooh, number 7 is going to actually be a category that I chose to not to actually give a product to. So what was the best holiday release this year? And I think this actually, my answer is gonna tell quite a lot about the level of holiday releases. There wasn't any like, and you have probably seen, I have tried quite a lot of holiday releases, comparing that I don't know why I bought so many this year, because usually there's been only a couple of, but like some of the holiday releases have been alright, some of them definitely I'm already thinking that did I really have to spend my money on them? I will get use out of them, but in the long run, are they gonna be memorable? Certainly not. So I think this just tells that the most exciting even I was about was the fact that sort of Odense re-released their holiday palette last year, and I got the palettes last year, so I'm not even gonna feature them here because I have already gotten the palette last year, I have tried them and so on, so no holiday releases in this video. And to the next question. So, what was the best collab on 2023? And I chose a collab that I have actually tried. I generally think like we had a lot of we had massively a lot of IP collabs, but I wanted to choose a collab that I had actually tried, and it's with an actual person. So I chose this one. So this is the Angelica Nyqvist and Odense Eye Little Ghost, or sorry, Halloween collab, and I have the Little Ghost palette and then the lip gloss from it. And why I think, well, it was the only collab that I really tried this year, but then collab with an actual influencer. But I do think that even though this color story is something perhaps that I will gravitate towards more in springtime, I actually do think that the quality of this is very solid. The only shade, this purple one, was a bit of a dud, it needs more work. But other than that, this is also again this very sort of good solid Odense Eye quality with the beautiful shimmers and mattes and the variety of shades and textures that in this. And something that I did like, what especially was positive for me in this was this sort of lip gloss. So this is like, Odensai hasn't actually done lip glosses before, so I was very excited about this, and I'm actually gonna see if the it won't look, it actually gives quite a bit of color on your lips, and also the formula is very comfortable, and I do hope that Odensai will now come out with more of these glosses, because I really did like the formula of this, and I really have been hoping for some time now that they would extend their sort of lip product range. So this is definitely again something that I hope we will be seeing more from the brand, and generally like good congratulations for Angie again. Another very good collab with the brand. I was such a big fan of the previous collaboration, and I do think that this was a really good like second collab with the brand. And to the last question. So the last question is, what are your predictions for releases during next year? And now I'm gonna actually look at my notes, because I did have a few. Yes, so I think the first trend, and I'm actually, this is me more hoping, I think that now that we have, especially from indie brands, have seen quite a lot of this sort of releases of special shades palettes, and we have even seen them now from mainstream brands. So for example, Vanessa Meyrick's released their like a new edition of her Lightworks palettes. So I'm hoping that maybe next year we will maybe go a little bit backwards, and we will go actually again to releasing like cohesive palettes. That doesn't mean like, I still do want palettes to have special shades. However, I'm for example now at this point where I have so many special shade palettes that I don't need an individual special shade palette anymore. I'm actually now much more beginning to like move back to the pace where I want there to be like that if I have a palette, I will be able to use this as an individual palette. And I do think that that is something that really shows the brand's creativity, that if you are able to create a good cohesive palette that has good mattes that go with the shimmers, and if those shimmers are special shades, that's like very great, and that will even more like add value to the palette. So yeah, that's the first thing that I hope, and maybe I'm predicting that we will see next year, that we, instead of having these sort of individual separate palettes for like mattes and then for special shades, we will now start to get like good combination of cohesive palettes that we will be able to use as one palette. The second prediction, I think what I wrote down was that we sort of saw from the end of this year the sort of return of the neutral palette. The Natasha Denona's I Need a Nude release certainly proves that, and I think there were quite a lot of other like very neutral palettes. I think Patrick Tar came out with one. We had one from actually Vanessa Meyrick's, I believe, had this sort of like matte neutral palette. So I will think that we will still see next year brands sort of recreating this sort of basic neutral palette, and this is actually something I'm quite excited about, because a good neutral palette, especially if it has some type of twist, is something that I do enjoy. So that is another trend that I'm predicting we will be going to the next year. And then the last trend, let's see, we had, yeah, the last trend I think is something that we have seen also something like already like slowly beginning this year, but we will probably see more Asian beauty brands expanding there also to North American and European markets. In my country we have now seen quite a lot of K-beauty brands, like we have K-beauty specific stores in our bigger cities, but I think we will also start soon seeing like K-beauty and Asian beauty brands more also in these sort of not like specialized stores, but also in our normal like department stores or other locations that sell makeup. So that is this sort of last prediction. I'm thinking that the Asian beauty brands and Asian beauty trends will start making their more way into the sort of Western beauty market. And so those were my responses to this sort of tag video. This was actually quite fun to make. Comment down below what would have been your answers to maybe all or some of these questions. If you disagree with some of my opinions, that's also alright. However, be nice on the comments about it. And with makeup, it's about individual expression, so it's okay for disagree. And also, if you agree, then that's also, you can tell it down below. But anyway, I hope that you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, if it helps a lot if you push the like button. And certainly, if you want to get notifications from my future videos, then push the bell button. You will be able to find me on Instagram on the nickname Makeup Hedgehog. And I hope I will be seeing you in another video soon. Bye bye!